It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life's Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Change makers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. Addiction doesn't just affect the individual. It deeply impacts the entire family, creating emotional strain, broken trust, financial hardship, and ongoing stress and pain. Today's guest, Dielhenn, contends that healing is possible for everyone involved. He joins us to discuss how we can break the cycle of addiction, foster emotional resilience, and create life transformation. Art is the author of the book, Addiction is a Family Disease. Welcome, Art. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Joan.
So, Art, let's begin with the premise of your book. You refer to addiction as a family disease. Why do you believe that's the case?
Joan, it's a family disease because first of all, it runs in families. In my case, my father was an alcoholic. My brother had issues. My sons have issues. I've had issues. But also it's a family disease because it affects everybody in the immediate family, not just the addict. The addict has his or her own addiction. Bill Wilson, the author of the 12 Steps, asserted that addiction was an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind. So there are really two kinds of addiction, either substances like alcohol, drugs, nicotine, food, or they're obsessions of the mind like gambling, sex, codependence, control, social media, video games, cell phones. And you can have one or the other or both. An addiction in the family is like a virus. It affects everyone because there's the addict who is showing this very volatile behavior. And then all the people in the family or friends or employers around that addict are trying to adjust, or trying to fix, or trying to control, or trying to adapt to, or trying to compensate for, or trying to fix the addict's behavior. And their reactions also can become abnormal or overstated, or and can actually become very hurtful, and those people can become sick too. Mm-hmm. In response to my son's addiction issues, I got very ill and ended up in the hospital because I was trying to fix something that I couldn't fix, that's mm-hmm. irrational. I was trying to apply a rational approach to something that's irrational, and I was way over my head, and I couldn't really help. Mm-hmm. Even professionals find it difficult.
So, Art, what should a family member or loved one do? You know, when we're in that situation, we feel helpless, as you just described, and we're so afraid of doing the quote-unquote wrong thing. So what is the right thing? What should we be doing?
Well, in my case, I had to get into recovery for that issue. For me, I needed to step back and let others take care of it. I needed to realize that my, quote, addiction to controlling his addiction, my codependence on fixing him, saving him, was too much for me, and I couldn't do it. So I entered recovery and learned how to step back and learned how to detach with love and learned how to spend the bandwidth that I was spending on him, on myself, on my own recovery, on my own life, that I needed to let him go in a lot of different ways to save myself.
Well, you know that there are different roles. There's the enabler, and we're always afraid of being that role, and then there's the rescuer. And you just mentioned detaching with love. What does that look like?
That looks like saying, I love you. I'm going to give you the authority over your own life. These are your own choices. I'm not going to meddle in your life anymore. I'm not going to try to save you. I'm going to wait for the question. Often we make assumptions about what other people need, what they should have, how to fix them, how to make them feel better, how to cure their disease. But we can't. So in my case, I stepped back. I told him that I loved him. And I said, this is your life. You live it. If you need help from me, then you need to ask the question. You need to ask for specific help. And then I'll be there for you 100%. But again, when dealing with somebody with addiction, their frontal cortex is affected, and they're not thinking logically. So trying to apply logical perspectives to an illogical problem doesn't work. So I had to stop meddling. And in doing so, I saved myself. I got better. And then when he was able to come to me with a certain amount of logical perspective, or ask for a specific help in a specific area, then I was able to make a judgment about whether I could do that, how I could do that, whether I wanted to do that, and whether doing that would negatively affect my own life.
Art, from what you've learned, how does the way a family behaves impact the person that is struggling with addiction?
It pushes them away. They don't want to hear it. They've got their own objective, and if they're in a substance disorder, then their objective is to get more of that substance. And the more you push, the more I pushed, the more I tried to help, the more I tried to control the situation, the worse it seemed to get. It's like, I remember when my kids were toddlers and I was, hovering over them, trying to keep them from falling over. And it seems like it never helped. All it did was distract them, and then they'd fall over. It's like trying to deal with an addict is similar. You're hovering over them. They already feel terrible about themselves. They feel terrible about their lives, and you chiming in just makes things worse. So when I was able to step back, it changed the dynamic completely.
So everything that you're describing right now is counterintuitive, like you just said, to all that we know as a parent. So if there's a parent that's listening to you right now and is saying, I can't do that, where do I find the strength? What would you say to that person?
I would say seek help from a professional. I would say work with a therapist who understands addiction. If you want a free program, there's a program called Al-Anon, which is free, which helps hundreds of thousands of people with this issue. And it's an amazing program. It is a 12-step program, and it's absolutely brilliant. And it teaches the principles of recovery. It teaches people as you go through the process of recovery how to be honest about what's going on, how to have hope for the future, and courage to let your addict go, and the willingness and humility to sort of understand your own part in this dance of addiction. And we all who deal with addicts have a part in this dance. So I think the main thing is to admit that you're facing an amount of worry, amount of pain, amount of unknowing, an amount of discouragement and disappointment and deep sense of heartbreak, that those things can change, that you don't have to live with them, and that you can find recovery.
And all of those things do make you feel more isolated and alone. And so a key point from this conversation for our listeners to remember is that you're not alone, and you don't have to do this alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because addiction by its nature is very isolating. Addicts isolate, and then we isolate with them because we're trying to control them. We're trying to compensate for their addiction. And there's a lot of shame involved in all of this. And that shame is just tortuous.
Mm-hmm. So after going through the pain of addiction with a loved one, and the person's in recovery, and the entire family is healing, how did you begin to rebuild that trust after all of those years of damage? Is it even possible?
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words. I'm sorry doesn't cut it. The 12 steps or any recovery program, even non-12-step programs, help you get better. And rebuilding trust is very, very difficult, as you indicated. And basically, in my case, I can say that trust is rebuilt in the actions of the addict and in the actions of the loved ones surrounding the addict. If they start presenting better, if they start doing self-care, if they are in active recovery, if they are making amends, real amends, if they're holding down a job, going to school, doing something to move forward in their lives, then trust can rebuild slowly. But it's very difficult, because once you're stricken, once you've been lied to for years, once you've seen the fallout for everybody around the issue, trust is hard won. Mm-hmm. And it's only through really positive actions over a long period of time that trust can be renewed.
Do you ever find that, I don't want to say like not letting your guard down, because that sounds so harsh, but do you ever find that you're just kind of waiting for the shoe to drop? Like you're just afraid to relax into the whole process?
That's a really good question. And that's why I'm in recovery, is to remind myself that it's not my life. It's somebody else's life. And if I'm standing around waiting for the other shoe to drop, then I'm still pretty codependent, aren't I? Mm-hmm. I'm still waiting to allow another's life to define my happiness. There's a saying, Joan, I'm only as happy as what is the saying? I'm only as happy as my least happy child, something to that order. And I think that's incorrect. My job is to be happy in my own life, to be productive, to help in any way I can, and to be a productive, citizen in the world. My job isn't to hover over my addict and try to micromanage and control him or her for the rest of my life, in this sort of suspended animation, waiting for the shoe to drop. The whole point of addiction is to step away from that need to be connected in that way. And so now, there are two kinds of business: my business and none of my business. And if the shoe drops for somebody else, that's not my business. And it sounds harsh, especially when you're talking about a family member. And it's heartbreaking to separate with love, detach with love, but it's the best thing I can do for myself. And honestly, it's the best thing I can do for the addict in my life, because it really means I'm going to stop enabling them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stop trying to fix them. I'm going to stop meddling in their life and give them, the self-respect to lead their own life. And hopefully, when I stop compensating for their addiction, they'll wake up, they'll hit their bottom, and they'll decide that, recovery is what they desire.
Art, why was it important for you to write this book? What did you hope to achieve?
It was important for me to write this book because I've been in recovery now for quite a while, and I've been given so much for fun and for free. And I just felt the responsibility to share some of it. And there's so much written about addiction, movies about addiction, movies, the horrors of addiction, blah, 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 all of that. But there's so little written about the joys of recovery. And I felt it was really important to understand, first of all, how the family, the loved ones are affected. And there's not much written about that. And really get into the psychology of that, and get into the psychology and the recovery of how we as loved ones around the addict can get well and get ready for the next phase of our life. And it was really important for me to talk about principles of recovery and the promises of recovery, and what happens as a result of committing to that process.
And once again, the title of the book is Addiction is a Family Disease. Art, where can our listeners go to learn more about you and your work?
They can go to my website, losangelescoaching.com. They can go to the website for the book, Addiction is a Family Disease. They can go to Amazon, where both of my books are for sale. I would say those are the primary ones, yeah.
And in about 30 seconds or less, what is the takeaway? What would you like to leave our listeners with?
That recovery is a life-changing process, and that if you're faced with addiction, either in yourself or in somebody you love, that you deserve recovery as much as the addict, and that it'll change everything for you. All the pain that you're experiencing now can be ameliorated, can be let go of, and you can live a full and happy life on the other side of that. No matter how painful it is now, it is possible to recover.
Art, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Joan. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided is the opinion of our guest and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read our digital articles, and be sure to subscribe to our mailing list. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.